Good. Place your body. Lie down or sit down. Yeah, be comfortable. I really invite you to make yourself comfortable. Close your eyes. Nice. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. You stay there. I'm just going to walk around you. I'm going to place these stones. Can you hear them? I'm going to just place these stones around you. Just placed around the space so you can feel the extent of the space that I'm in. Listen to each one touch the ground. Can I ask you a question? How do you know right now, right at this very moment, that you're not dreaming? What is it, that ineffable, dreamlike quality of being, that makes you know that this definitely 100% isn't a dream? Okay, think back to a dreamlike state and just think about what the surroundings look like. Bring to your mind what the floor felt like. Bring to your mind what the ceiling looked like. What did your body feel like? What was the feeling deep inside, in your organs, in your bones? Breathe in the centered air. Did you have a sense of smell in that dream? Did it smell like this? Now, slowly, with your eyes closed, rise to your feet. still with your eyes closed. Look at your hands. Were these the hands you had in your dream? Have you ever looked at your hands in a dream? Now slowly fluttering your eyelids open like a cartoon version of waking up. Open your eyes and look at your hands. Are these your hands? Are these the dream hands? And are you still sure that you're not dreaming? Relax your hands down. The first threshold. Ritual. Rituals are episodes of repeated and simplified cultural communication in which the direct partners to a social interaction and those observing it share a mutual belief in the descriptive and prescriptive validity of the communication's symbolic content and accept the authenticity of one another's intentions. It is because of this shared understanding of intention and content, and in the intrinsic validity of the interaction, that rituals have their effect and affect. Ritual effectiveness energizes the participants and attaches them to each other. It increases their identification with the symbolic objects of communication and intensifies the connection of the participants and the symbolic objects with the observing audience, the relevant community at large. Jeffrey C. Alexander, from the cultural pragmatics of social performance, between ritual and rationality. This is a ritual to remake the world, a ritual to remake your world. You are going through this ritual alone and together. You and over 300 people who share the same desire to change the world, one action at a time. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe this thought in and breathe this thought out. And let it go. During this ritual, we will enter our shared imaginary world. It's a labyrinth, a psychophysical space, a labyrinth of the spectrum of the mind. I am your guide. Please rise. Slowly, carefully. And take my imaginary hand and prepare to cross the threshold. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. This is an imaginary liminal dream labyrinth after all. And now begin begin to walk very slowly.
Just begin
Very
to walk
carefully forwards.
very slowly, feeling your way.
Feel your way to the edges
Hands,
of this space.
palms, soft feet,
Space you have prepared.
ready body.
Hands,
Just feeling
arms,
the edges
feet,
of
all
your
soft, all
it.
careful, all safe.
Tentative steps.
And as you feel the edge just begin to turn,
Feel what's
turn maybe to the
familiar
left.
to you in this your space.
A little bit to the left. And begin to move in
turning.
spirals.
That's it.
Spiraling
Try turning,
carefully.
turning,
Feel your way.
finding different
Is it
directions.
familiar? Maybe you step into a patch of light.
Can you feel what
Or by the way
walking
you're
in a
turning,
spiral feels
you
like?
understand that a certain sound
Swirls and curls.
helps you know where you are.
Feel the space that we're in,
Slight variations in the air.
our shared
You
liminal
sense
space.
different smells depending on which way
With me
you're
as your
facing.
guide. I'm here with you.
Feel what a
I
spiral
want you to
is.
keep on walking.
Feel the space we
Keep
are
on
in.
walking now until we get to our next resting space. And you keep on walking, and
imagine
whilst you're
you are both
walking,
in
I'll
your
keep on
space
talking, and I'm walking here
and
with you.
our imaginary space.
I'll let you know when we get to the next resting
Our
place.
shared liminal space.
Keep on
At the same
moving
time,
through. These are
With
tunnels.
me as your guide.
Underground,
I am
underfoot,
here, guiding
hard
you.
stone. Feel the
That's it,
stone
keep on
floor.
walking. Keep
Imagine
moving.
the tunnels.
I'll let you know when we get to the next threshold.
Around us, it's damp.
We are
Around us, the
underground.
air's still.
We're in a series of tunnels.
Old stone, old columns.
Underfoot is hard.
These are
stone
passageways in our imaginary labyrinth.
floor. Feel the stone floor.
Beneath the earth.
Feel the
Subterranean. Subliminal.
tunnels. Around us.
Going on forever.
Damp drips of water.
Never ending
Around us,
spirals.
still air.
Never ending
Passageways
spirals
beneath
of
the earth.
stone and earth.
Subterranean. Subliminal. Here you are protected. Going on forever and forever. Never
Listen
ending
to the
spiral.
air and the footsteps. Though you can't see me, maybe you can imagine me
Here
right
you are
here.
protected.
beside you.
Listen to the air and the footsteps. Though you can't see me. This is the labyrinth of my dreams. Rocky, damp and ancient.
Close and warm.
Close and warm.
With an infinite number of
passageways.
Infinite
Infinite possibilities.
Infinite
Infinite riches in your small
in
room.
your small room.
Here,
Reality is thick.
with realities.
With reality.
Possible futures and
Possible
alternate
futures.
paths down alternate pasts. And alternate pasts down alternate paths.
Neurophenomenological space.
Neurophenomenological space. A bit like my brain.
This is a space that's like my brain.
I make labyrinths.
I imagine.
I make labyrinths
The
to
sense of
understand
the
myself.
labyrinth.
I make labyrinths to structure
Maybe
my
an
life. I make
answer.
labyrinths to find myself.
More questions?
And at the centre of the labyrinth,
Maybe
maybe an answer.
to the problem.
An answer to the problems. Problems. We face many problems. Face many problems. Face many problems. Face many problems. How do we become informed? When the very tool of information is the very tool of disinformation. We are being bombarded with disinformation, manipulation that serves to deeper entrench our own biases.
Manipulation that serves
Okay,
to deeper entrench
let's stop.
our own biases.
Before we go deeper,
Okay.
and we will go deeper,
Okay, stop.
Slowly. Open
Just
your eyes.
stop.
See where you are. I'm still here.
Open your eyes.
Orient yourself.
See where you are.
Feel yourself here. Bring yourself
Still here.
back into yourself.
But now?
Because now it's time for tea.
Tea time.
Take yourself to the place where we can prepare the tea for our tea ceremony. Let's go. This way. Anyway, you know where you make your tea.
Everyone knows where they make their own tea.
Okay.
Hello. So today we're going to make some hot hibiscus. This is a recipe inspired and an amalgamation of different things, but mainly inspired by my dad, who came back from Cameroon with a nice Ziploc bag of hibiscus leaves, dried hibiscus leaves. And in Cameroon they make a drink called folere, which is usually brewed up in big batches and sold out on the market as a sort of iced tea kind of thing. But I love hot drinks, so I've decided to make it into a hot drink and brew it in a way that means that I can just make it for me and to my taste. So I'm going to take you through that. We're going to start by boiling the kettle. Just go over and we'll boil enough water for a cup. So I found that it's important that we definitely do this first, because one of the things that makes this drink so good is having the hibiscus steep on its own in the hot water for as long as possible. So we're going to take our hibiscus leaves and we're going to pop about 3 or 4 into a teapot or a glass jar, a jug, something that you can pop the hot water in over it. So just put maybe 4 hibiscus leaves in. And then along with those leaves, we're also going to add a cinnamon stick into that jar or jug or teapot that you've popped the leaves in. So whilst the kettle's boiling, we can get on with doing the next step, which is grating some ginger. Now, I like mine quite fiery, so I do about 2-inch piece of ginger, but it's completely up to you for taste, so cut off as much as you like, 2 to 3 inches. And now the kettle's boiled, we're actually going to go and get the kettle and pour it over the hibiscus leaves and the cinnamon stick. We're doing enough for a cup. Maybe 200 ml. Just over, I'd say. Maybe up to about 300 millilitres. Brilliant. I'm going to leave that to steep while we're doing everything else. So we've got our little knob of ginger, and we'll now take our grater and we're going to use the mid side. So not the biggest one, not the tiny one, the one you do parmesan on. And we'll grate. Whilst you're doing that, you can lean over and just have a smell of the hibiscus leaves and the cinnamon, and watch as the water changes into this deep pink. Once you've done all your ginger, you can just reach inside the grater and place that ginger straight into your mug that you're going to use. Brilliant. And next, we're going to take our orange. The orange can be juiced or it can just be placed in as a slice. Today we're just going to do a slice of orange, so we'll cut it in half and then we'll cut about a 2 centimetre slice. We'll take that slice and we'll gently squeeze the juice into the cup we've just put the ginger in. And then just drop the rest of that slice in. So our hibiscus is still brewing. We might want to take a little spoon and give it a stir. And give it a smell. See how all those flavours are releasing. Excellent. And the next step is to just add a little sweetener to that kind of ginger puree mix that we've been making with the orange. This is to taste. So I don't like things too sweet, but you could go for around a teaspoon to start with. So we're going to open the honey or agave or our most preferred sweetener, and we're just going to pop it straight into the cup. And then if you're feeling a little warm on the inside and you want to feel a little loose, then we can add a little bit of alcohol. I prefer rum, a spiced rum. I think it just enhances the flavours. It's got a little bit of a Caribbean twist to it. We'll take the rum, and again this is definitely to taste. I like around a shot. And I'll pour that into the cup with the orange and the ginger and the honey. So I'm going to take that cup, put it somewhere where it's stable. And when that nice pink mix of the hibiscus flowers and the cinnamon stick is looking rich in colour, and you can smell those smells radiating from that brew that's just been sitting, and the hibiscus flowers have started to open up from their dried position into that kind of hand-like soft state. I'm going to take the liquid from there and we're simply going to pour it over the mix that we've been making with the orange and the rum and the ginger and the honey. We're just going to fill our cup. We'll take a spoon and give it a little mix. Make sure everything's. And then at this point, we'll take our first taste. We'll see if there's anything we want to. Maybe a bit more ginger, perhaps a little bit more orange. We can just squeeze the orange into the cup. We don't need to drop the whole rind in. It's up to you. You can place those hibiscus leaves directly into the cup. So they can sit there and release their flavours as you're drinking. And there's your spiced rum hibiscus hot tea.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now return to your lovely little den. That's it. Come back. We'll have a sit down. We'll drink your tea. Okay, so the labyrinth has led us to a church in Walthamstow in 2019, where Professor Sophie Scott is telling me how the brain works. Sophie's the director of the Institute of Cognitive Neuroscience at the University College London. She also does stand-up comedy because she's brilliant. So Professor Sophie Scott used to speak to me in my dreams. Her, Brian Cox, Robin Ince, they'd all be in a podcast called The Infinite Monkey Cage, and I used to use that podcast to assuage my insomnia. I'd listen to them. They'd all be there. Josie Long, one time, or a couple of times Alan Moore, sometimes Brian Blessed, talking about science. And I'd feel comforted. And I'd listen and I'd fall asleep, and they'd enter my dreams, people my dreams. And I knew all the words as if I'd been listening to songs. So I'd say their words back to them and we'd be in this dream conversation. So I decided to meet Professor Sophie Scott in real life, and I asked her to sit here with me in this church in Walthamstow in 2019 and talk to me about the brain. So I kind of made a dream landscape in real life, and we're now in that dream landscape in real life within this dream labyrinth. So, as you drink your tea, imagine that you're here, you're inside, enmeshed in a web of alternate reality. Partitions, screens and threads weave and wind their way across the space. Another labyrinth. A real labyrinth inside an imaginary labyrinth. Everybody around us lying down on cushions, dead cozy. There's a citrusy, lavendery, frankincense smell hanging like a mist in the air. Shadows of myself dance and spin in the air in translucent layers of light. We're all immersed in my perceptual environment. It's a ritual space, and it's an installation called Distorted Constellations. Listen now. She's gonna talk.
I'm a brain scientist, and I'm really lucky to get to work with, no offence to the rest of you, but the best bit of, I think, any human is your brain. I absolutely love your brains. And there's nothing else really in nature like your brains. It's easy to take human brains for granted, but the scale of the complexity and their size and the evolutionary journey we've been on to develop them is kind of dizzying. And one of the things I'm particularly interested in is how our brains, what our brain's main job is. And you can think of one of the main jobs of the brain is perception. And you're perceiving two very general kinds of things. You're perceiving the stuff that's out there in the world. So you're perceiving the vision and smell and taste and touch and hearing. But you also perceive the stuff that's coming from your own body. So some of your senses, vestibular sensation, that's to do with balance. Proprioception, that's literally knowing where all the bits of your body are. And of course, your body makes sounds, and you can see your body, so you're also perceiving the things you do and the noises you make. And how your brain actually solves these problems, and how your brain is able to tell what's you and what's something else that's out there in the world it's an amazing set of problems. It's very, very hard to get a computer to do this or build a robot that can do this, and we learn to do it apparently effortlessly. So I'm very interested in this basic mechanics of how our brains construct everything. So everything you see and everything you hear is your brain's best guess at what's out there. And our brains do solve this problem differently. So a lot of what we mean when we talk about neurodivergency is simply, for want of a better phrase, variation that is, in fact, to use a statistical term, just normal variation. There is nothing unusual about it. People just vary a lot on different ways that your brain can solve problems. And then you also have neural complexity in terms of sometimes things are just fundamentally different. So your brain might have some completely different way of doing things that can't easily be compared to how another brain works. So actually, I'd say one of the things we've learnt from having these new techniques at our hands to be able to ask questions about individual healthy brains by looking at them in the scanner is actually how much more interesting complexity there is in terms of as much to do with how much we differ as in how much we are the same.
For as long as I can remember, I've seen the world in a way that is apparently strange. not the accepted norm. I've always seen auras, like outlines around people, but not just people. Trees, hills, any object, large or small. They're not meaningful auras. They're like a translucent negative image around the thing. When I was a child, I remember sometimes walking in the hills near my house and wondering why the sky looked really fizzy. And then when I was at university, I got into meditation. I used a 70s yoga book. And I used to look at a candle for 1 minute. It was a candle meditation or something. And I noticed that when I closed my eyes, I could not only see the small candle's flame, but also the dresser that the candle was sitting on. And then I noticed that I could also see the dresser with my eyes open when I looked away from it, like a transparent negative image. And then I realised that that was what life was like all the time. It'd always been like that, because no one ever talked about that thing. When you look away from an object, you can still see it. I just assumed it was so normal. It was the kind of thing you don't mention. Then I started trying to ask people, trying to get a sense if they experienced the same things that I did. One friend, I mentioned the trillions of dots that were always out there, like a kind of transparent rainbow-coloured TV static, or like a very pale, pointless painting. And I remember that friend was kind of incredulous and just said, oh, maybe it's because of all the glitter you wear on your eyelids, maybe it's fallen into your eyes. Another friend, I remember I asked her about it and she said, no, you don't see that. Just flat out, no. And I realised that often people don't really like it when you talk about your reality diverging from theirs. It was only when I went to the opticians, after my parents got a bit panicked, when I commented on how misty the night sky had looked and how kind of bright the lights were shining into my eyes. I went to the opticians and I told the opticians about the symptoms, and the optician couldn't help. My eyes were fine, perfect vision. And I realised that apart from the visual symptoms, there were other things, oral symptoms, my tinnitus, my propensity to go from feeling really high to really low, quite often linked to sensory states, like there was a lot of noise, there was a lot of rhythm going on, a lot of people around. My migraines and my ocular migraines. 2014. That was when I started to really think about this. And weirdly, that was the same year that a new condition was coined. It's called visual snow. In the peer-reviewed paper, the scientists who defined it called it an almost completely ignored problem. And this whole heap of symptoms, I think there's 16 and growing, visual, oral, psychological, found a new home in a new condition. And thousands of us found ourselves, and found each other through this. Found a new phrase to organise our realities around, deriving meaning from its clear boundaries where once there was none, finding ourselves understood in one way for the first time. So it's called visual snow. It's known as a syndrome. There's no cure. It hasn't yet received widespread recognition, although I did read a study this year that estimates that 2% of the population has it, so not as rare as I thought it was. I started to seek out neuroscientists to ask about this condition, and as I was asking, I came to realise that I hold two opposing realities in my mind constantly. I guess in one way I've always known that the visual phenomena were both there and not there. Not like a hallucination, more like a layering, an illusion, an augmenting of reality. Same as when I lucid dream. I'm aware that I'm dreaming, conscious yet not conscious, And I started wondering, could this have led to a unique way of relating to reality? And I wondered if I were to hold up this mirror of infinite regress that I experience, shapes mirroring shapes, and I wondered if the perceptual realities of other people were held up against my own. Mirror meeting mirror. What would people see of themselves? What would they understand about the nature of a shared objective reality and their own relationship with the ideas of normality? So I created this exhibition that you're sitting in, Distorted Constellations. Imagine a hall of mirrors. You see yourself, and you see her fading away into forever. Imagine having a memory scratched into your eyelids. Imagine having the memory into your bones. No deeper, into your cells. Imagine seeing again and again, feeling upon feeling, the sea beneath the sea, a dream within a dream. Visual snow is a ghost plane, a wasteland of broken fragments. The ghost fragments dance and fade and dance and play like spectral children, play like half-forgotten memories. Haunting. Visual snow is a time machine. Visual snow is a shadowland, a distorted mirror world. The learning that I've received from working with neuroscientists is a lot. One thing, we've got so many senses. I don't know why they teach us that we have 5 senses. I mean, there's different models, right? 5 senses is one model. A conservative estimate is that we have 33 senses. The number's not important. The important thing is that we have all these senses, and each of those senses is creating a simplified model of the universe based on the information that they receive. And those simplified models all get put together by our brains to form our perceptions. Human models are really complex, but even with that complexity, we perceive far from everything. Each of our senses is limited. Like, for example, we only see a tiny fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum. We only perceive a tiny fraction of reality. According to another one of my scientists from my insomnia dreams, neuroscientist Bo Lotto, we actually see no reality at all. We only see meaning. I try and create work that opens this out to people, to help them to understand that their limited window on reality is subjective. I'm inviting you into an externalization of my internal reality, demonstrating and normalizing the subjectivity of perception. I invite you to break your grasp on your preconceived notions of objective reality. Understand how our perceptions into cognitive bias and understand how, neurologically speaking, we're all on a spectrum of neurodiversity. John Elder Robinson in Psychology Today said, from an evolutionary perspective, the more different brains there are, the more different perspectives we have on the universe, so the more likely we can solve problems together.
Is there such thing as a normal brain?
Well, it's a very good way of putting it. There really is no normal brain. And that's really for two reasons. The first of all is that brains are highly individual. They're like faces. So the same anatomical structures you can find in all brains, but they can look extremely different, just like faces might all contain the same features, but the size, the shape, the exact arrangement can be very, very different. And sometimes that does seem to lead to significant differences. So years ago I did a study with phoneticians, people who are very, very good at listening to speech sounds and kind of analysing other people's voices. And we found they had more complex auditory cortex shapes. So it's just like the shape of their brain, almost certainly what it was born like, has probably affected their whole lives. And almost certainly that's not going to be restricted to phoneticians. I suspect we'll find it if we look at someone like Joe or people that do a lot of work with sound and music. It might just be a way that your brain works that has disposed you to go into a certain area. Human brains develop, well, they develop over your whole lifespan, but they develop particularly quickly in childhood. And in fact, that childhood trajectory of development is not complete until you're in your early 20s. So you've got 20 years or so where the outcome of the brain you have in your early 20s is going to be because of the things that you've done and the experiences that you've had and what else has gone on in that period. So you could, if you really want to change your brain, you teach someone to read, teach them to play a musical instrument. All these things, these experiences that either opportunities to get to them or to not get to them can really affect how your brain works. And then on top of that, you've got how the, for want of a better phrase, the genetics of what you're coming into the world within your brain and these experiences do when they interact, because that's a really growing area of science. It's not nature versus nurture. What you see is something that actually is a feedback system, and that can really affect how your brains develop. So as soon as you start throwing in something more complex, like real divergence in terms of, for example, how you process social information or how you're dealing with visual information, how you can image things, that won't just be like and my brain also does this. It will have an impact on many other aspects of how your brain is functioning. So what you're seeing is a very complex system, and it's, as I say, it's absolutely dizzying in terms of the complexity. You have something like 86 billion neurons in your brain. It's unbelievable. And how those neurons are talking to each other, how they're connecting, the networks that you have, these are things that are arising out of these properties of sort of development and individual differences.
86 billion neurons in the brain. That's more than the stars there are in the sky? Is that, how do you visualize that?
Yeah, it's really quite, it's absolutely, it's sort of unbelievable. And you start to get a glimpse of how incredibly hard it is to, people are always saying, well, now, we've got a new human brain project, we're going to build a brain that simulates, build a computer that simulates a brain, and you think, well, do you know what? Come back when you've got 100, let's say 50 billion neurons, but also show me how that brain grows up. Diversity in how human brains work, it's not a bug, it's a feature. And it's what you want in humans. And if you look at humans as a bigger picture, one of the reasons why we've been a very, very successful species is because of the phenomenal flexibility in our behaviour. Humans can cope in all sorts of situations, and we invent things to help us solve problems. And actually, that's because of this complexity of our brains and their ability to learn and to change, and the fact that their brains don't all work the same, so we don't all solve problems the same way. So you've got much more likelihood of solving complex problems with new inventions if everybody is thinking slightly differently.
So yeah, that problem, the problems, the many problems. One answer, diversity. There really is no normal brain. So what about you? What about your brain? What is it about you that led you to this place? What is it that you do that no one else can do? Diversity in how human brains works is not a bug. It's a feature! Okay. Stand up. Let's continue our journey. Okay. Close your eyes and breathe. And begin to edge your way around your space again. That's it. Walk slowly at first, building up the confidence, feeling out the space again, moving through the labyrinth again, sharing liminal space again. We will cross this next threshold and go to the next space. Confrontation. The crux. Speaking of diversity, who did you include in your team who thinks in a different way to you? Who confronts you with their behaviour? What truths could they find that you could not? Whose experience don't you have? Who are the underrepresented voices? Not people who represent people with underrepresented voices, the actual people, the humans. What's the spectrum of neurodiversity like in your team? What are the experiences that disabled people, people of colour, working class, migrants, what are the experiences that they have, that you don't have, that you have, that they don't have? It's about problem solving, not box ticking. And we're going to need all the help we can get to lift ourselves out of this labyrinth. I fell down and I fell down deep, and I haven't stopped falling since. The hands that grab and the voices that grab, hold and let go, the labyrinth of my mind. At that point, mid-flow, in mid-air, with nothing to hold on to, I realised. Communion. Take a moment, stand or sit here a while. I feel that we've reached the centre of the labyrinth. Confrontation, yes. I confront you as I confront myself. And I assume you're here to confront yourself. But while you do it, let's commune. Open your eyes. Now, go to your place where you've prepared the food. And begin to eat. And
Let us eat together. Take heart. Take heart in knowing that you are remaking the world. Take heart in knowing that you are remaking your world. Now, in this moment, this will stay with you. You can carry it with you. This is one ripple in the ocean of your life. It will never disappear. It will transform into other ripples, into other ripples, into other ripples, into waves. And all of this is waves. And all of it is one wave. If you can make it physical, if you can externalize and internalize at the same time, you can do it. You can connect. This will carry on into your life, carrying you on into the darkness. Break Your Reality, a workshop. To externalize our adaptations to better recognise those of others. An intimate moment to go at once further on and further in. How's your food? You enjoying it? I hope you really taste this. While you eat, I'll tell you about the workshop. So let's go back to the South Bank Centre, August 2017. You sit there. I can take us. You don't need to move for this bit. But we enter into the big main hall, and then we go down the stairs. We go round and round again. We're underground again. Always underground. So, yeah, we're in this room. And I was leading a workshop with a director called Jonathan Grieve. We both realised we had atypical perception. We've been realising how much that had affected our lives, shaping the choices we made as we made adaptations to deal with the world and deal with our lives. We wanted to bring other artists together, other artists with hidden disabilities, with atypical perceptions, to explore through extreme acts of sensory deprivation and immersion how they'd used adaptations. We wanted to confront these adaptations to bring the reality of an atypical reality out into the open, creating an autodidactic reappraisal of the artist's work and life. I'd found that facing the way that my brain works helped me in every way conceivable. And one thing that was interesting was that it allowed me to engage with my empathetic responses in a more useful way. I felt like I could be more helpful to people. We started from the premise that Sophie Scott said, that neurodiversity is a feature of humanity and that people are hardwired to perceive the world in differing ways. We played with sensory deprivation and immersion. We visited anechoic chambers, flotation tanks. We worked in bright light and in darkness. We worked with spinning, turning, shaking up our vestibular systems, shaking up the inner ear. We encouraged each other to radically accept our own perspectives, and we led one another
through our unique perspectives, rather than trying to normalise or flatten out. We confronted ourselves with our own coping strategies that we'd become accustomed to. I really came to realise that I lived in such a strong web of adaptations and coping mechanisms. And as useful as that was, because one has to live in society, it was burying something potentially more creative, more game-changing. So what is that? Is that this idea that buried within neurodivergence, say, as an example of diversity, there's like a latent superpower? So then if you spent your life trying to suppress or ignore this, on top of what society already does, just suppress and ignore it, I mean, what could happen if you began to actively develop it? This is a question. There's not a simple answer, but if nothing else, we found that gaining a sense of ownership and acceptance was invaluable for us. And it helps us to develop new artistic processes in unforeseen ways. And it gave us all a new lens on ourselves. Lifting out of the labyrinth. Okay, let's stand up and let's walk again. So with your eyes closed, begin to walk. Feel yourself in a new direction. Feel out the space. Breathing. We're going to climb now. We're going to lift ourselves out of the labyrinth. We're walking higher, higher, further out. Ben Ockrey said in his book, A Time for New Dreams, that the universities of the future will have to engage the sublime value of intuition. How to make those intuitive leaps that can transform humanity. How to make this mysterious faculty available to all. I think that's one of the things I'm always trying to create formulas for intuition. I think I've got it now. Thoughts swirl round and round, and I walk and I run and I ruminate and I dream, and I lucid dream, and I write it down, the dreams, the walks, the talks, the swirls, and the new ideas form, seemingly from the air, but they're going to be in the air because I've already swirled it all. And it seems sometimes like they just pop up, but it's been a long process, stretching back years and years. And if I pick the threads and follow down the woven tapestry road, I can make out a pattern. We're ascending. We're ascending. Up out of the labyrinth. Here we are. Stop. still for a moment. Feel the threshold. Feel that we are going to cross over. Open your eyes. Breathe. Breathe. Now, we're going to continue by taking yourself to your bowl of water or to your sink. Maybe it's your bathroom. Maybe you've already set a little bowl of water. Now, if you've not already, run the water. Nice and warm. If you'd like, you could drop a few drops of scent, maybe essential oil, a little bit of perfume, just a couple of drops. Nothing too much, just to give it a nice fragrance. You can begin to swirl your fingers in the water. Smell that. And when it's reached enough, you can turn the tap off. That's it, just lean over it, breathing it in. Look at the water. Really look at the water. First of all, just dip your fingertips. Dip your fingertips into the water. Both hands. That's it, play with the water. Enjoy that sound. Enjoy the feeling. Now, take those fingertips and just slide them gently down the sides of your face, from your forehead, just down the sides. Feel it easing away any tension, calming the vagus nerve. Continue to do that a few times. This and many steps along the way we have taken here potentially activate the ventral vagus nerve. Dr. Ruth Lannister, a professor of psychiatry and director of the Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Research Unit at the University of Western Ontario, says activating the ventral vagus nerve also activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that deals with logic. Therefore, calming yourself allows you to think clearly and process difficult circumstances, which will of course also further resolve any stress. So through the ventral vagal network, you can work to limit the effects of stress. Now fully immerse your hands in the water. That's it, fingertips, palms, hands, right up to your wrists, further if you like. Breathe in the sensation. We can use the senses as ways in to passageways unknown. Now run your hands over your face gently. Yeah, you can also cup your face in your hands. Breathe in, enjoy this moment. Now look at your hands and begin to touch hand to hand, palm to palm. Clasp hands. Feel hands, feel fingertips on palms, feel wrist, back of hands, skin to palm. Soft and gentle, calm and reassuring. Feel, see, hear, present. A kindness to yourself. Maybe a kindness you've never even shown before. What beauty lies within these hands? What tasks not yet done? What tasks done? And let that drop away. And we'll return to our den, to our place. Stand where you feel comfortable. And now, begin to stroke lightly with your fingertips along your body. Begin with your hands and your arms. From your hand, up your arm, all the way up to your neck, along your neck, along your scalp, your ears, your face. And this is a very light touch. Down your body, lightly stroking over shoulder, chest, stomach, around your back. Hips, bum, thighs, down to your calves. Go deeper. Now begin with a firmer touch. Start with your hands, one hand pressing into another, a firm touch. And with each touch, feel the word love. Love, 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 and arms and wrists, love. Love, arms and shoulders, love, love, love. Feel what this is. moment to feel the self, a moment to return to the self. It's been a long journey. Neck, scalp, face, love, love. And chest and back, pressing in, feeling the muscles, feeling the bones, feeling what's here, this skeleton that holds you, this body that works for you, this body that fails you and works and fails you and works, all the recriminations, all the love, legs, hips and thighs, the work they do, 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 and feet standing, holding. Misbehaving bodies, how they misbehave. That's all of them all the same. Now, even firmer touch, pressing, pushing muscle into bone, pushing, pressing, feeling, pushing yourself into yourself, pressing yourself, feeling the extent of yourself, bringing it all back together with care, with love, press with love. Each time your hand moves, you feel the same refrain, love, 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 love into your scalp. Allow it to tingle in your scalp, the words, the feeling. This is my body. This is myself. I am here. This is me. My face, my palm, this smell, this space, my place in this world. And chest, love, press, chest, press, chest, press, stomach, press, ribs, press, spine, press, abdomen, press, hips, press, thighs, press, bum, feel, press, love, 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 love. And now return to the next step.
the rhythm, feel the music. Dance like no one's watching, because no one's watching. And now dance. Dance with wild abandon. Dance free, full flow, let it out, shake it out, let it out, shake it out. Dance, dance, feel the rhythm, feel the music, dance, dance, feel it all, feel it all, feel it all, feel it all, dance. Dance! Dance, I tell you, dance! Stop turning around, I'm trying to go behind you. Dance, I tell you, dance! Dance, I tell you,
I think our fever dream is coming to an end. Now please go to your computer screen and log into the meeting. This is the end of the dream. We rose up out of the labyrinth and we're going to join. We find ourselves back. Look at each other. Smile at each other. We are here for each other. I see you. I see you. The world must be remade.
Let's go and call it.
For initiations, and not just for beginnings, but also for midpoints.
The individual can take responsibility for their autonomous future.
The individual can take responsibility for the initiatory processes. You are constantly remade and remade. Your brain, so plastic, is in constant development. Synapses pruned, new memories stored, backup, machine learning machines. We stick our sticky brain covers to screens and ingest data. Within the screen may be your salvation, or at least a constant respite. The stress of everything else that pours into your screen. One face, one mouse, moving deliberately, softly, smoothly, precisely. Whispering, sometimes nothing. Sometimes one mouse, some things moving deliberately. Softly. I choose meaning stuffed full of meaning, meaning beyond what I even can yet fathom. I choose myth because we are the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we don't tell ourselves. And we tell each other stories in order to live. Joan Didion, and the stories from long ago that were riven in two by violence and oppression. Those stories that were distorted and thrown out into the constellations. I tell those stories of pre-Persephone, of no virgin whole dichotomy, of the path not taken, that is not a mistake, but a beautiful education, of the river before it was a road, forgotten continents and lost black feminine wisdom.
Stories from long ago that were riven into by violence and oppression,
You
and the
who
stories
feel
that other people
overload,
told ourselves
I
about
salute you.
ourselves.
Society was not made for us. The never-ending deluge of sound and light and close bodies
I like
and
those
lines
stories.
of
I tell those
streets and no
stories.
sky and no stars. Boxes within boxes and grand echo
I tell stories of
and grand echo chambers.
dichotomy, of the path not taken that's not a mistake,
Of the vibrations of 1,000 whispers,
of the river before
desperately trying to be quiet. They
Forgotten
cannot know how loud
continents,
they are, united in knowing and wisdom.
sensory.
Meridian. Just think about
You
the
who
outer
feel
reaches of the
overloaded,
nerves,
I salute
the
you.
nearly not
Society was
the
not made
edges
for
of
us.
yourself,
A never-ending
where you
deluge of
meet the
sound
world,
and light
where
and
the
close
beginnings
bodies
meet
and
endings.
lines of streets and
Just
no
acknowledging
sky and
it.
no stars.
There's a brave
Boxes
frontier,
within boxes,
so much
and grand
protection
echo
needed,
chambers
so
to
much
sit in and be
possibility
quiet while the
unfurled.
air thrums with the vibration of 1,000 whispers of people desperately trying to be quiet.
Prickly and furry and hairy.
They
Dust and
cannot
light
know how
and
loud
water
they are,
heat.
united in unknowing.
You are here.
Meridian.
This is for you.
Just think about the
You may or outer reaches of the nerves, the nearly not you, the edges of yourself, where you meet the world, where the beginnings meet the endings. Just acknowledging it as a brave frontier. So much protection needed, so much possibility unfurling, tentacles and edges and tips of hair, and smooth and prickly and furry and hairy. Dust and light and water and heat. Response. You are here. This is for you. You may or may not react in a way that you want, but your reaction is true.